I always tell this as a cautionary tale that has actually happened to me, especially in light of all the terrifying, heartbreaking news stories of girls who get into Ubers and are never seen again. This happened when I was in college. It's one of the bigger party schools with an entire street of bars you can wander from. My boyfriend, now fiance, had gone back to his hometown for the weekend, so I decided to go out with some friends. I'm sure you can see where this is going. I had a bit too much to drink and was on the edge of a blackout, knowing with my whole mind, body and soul that I did not want to become a liability for my friends for the rest of the night. I told them I was going to Uber home. My friends insisted on coming home with me, but selfishly, I wanted to call my boyfriend when I get home and have a bed to myself, so I told them all no, but took a screenshot of my driver's name and info on the app and sent it to them. When he got close, I hugged them all and walked out the door. Like I said earlier, it's a big party school with lots of bars in one area, so the entire strip is lined with Ubers from around 11 p.m. to 3. It was almost bar closed, so there were a ton. And look, I was hammered. I don't even know what a Toyota Yaris looks like at the best of times. So, as I'm searching, a man rolled his window down and asked if I was waiting for an Uber. I said yes. He told me he wasn't my Uber, but if I canceled my ride and accepted his, then he would take me home. I was already thinking of the leftovers I had in the fridge at this point, so I agreed, canceled my Uber, and linked my account up with his. He was super nice, and he was an Uber. I've heard stories of fake Uber drivers, so I did make sure he was legit. He called me beautiful a few times right off the bat. But hey, I was a girl in college. I got that a lot. I remember we talked about our favorite books. I told him I was an English major, and he was super interested in listening to me talk about tutoring ESL students in my free time on campus. He was an immigrant who had learned to speak English, so we laminated about how awful it is to learn such an intricate language, but how rewarding the successes were in the end. When he missed the turn for my apartment complex, I figured it must have been because he was distracted by our conversation. I politely pointed out that he had missed the turn in, and he said he turned back around. Rather than making a U-turn though, he looked the longest way to get back to my apartment. I was still in familiar territory, so I at least knew that he was going in the right direction, but I was starting to get nervous. It was around 2:30 at this time, and it was super dark and no one was awake, let alone outside. When he missed the turn in again, I asked if I could just get out and make it back on my own. He seemed kind of offended, like he was surprised that I wasn't as engrossed in our conversation as he was. I kind of jokingly told him that I was a broke college student and he was racking up my bill during our surge. That seemed to straighten things out a bit. He was all, "Oh, I completely understand," and turned back towards my complex. I was honestly so freaked out and drunk at this point that as soon as he pulled into my complex, I was like, "Okay, right here is fine, thank you," and pulled on the door handle when he came to a stop. It didn't open. I hit the little lock latch, still nothing. "Let's go get coffee," he said. He clicked the button in the app to say the trip was complete and clicked out of the app. At this point, I'm trying not to look as freaked out as I feel. I told him I was tired and it was late and coffee was the last thing I needed at the moment. I tried the door again, just to make sure I wasn't drunk and handling the door wrong. Still didn't open. "We should just sit here and talk until you're feeling better," he was explaining to me. "We can go somewhere more private too if you'd like. Do you live alone up there?" At this point, I'm frantically digging through my purse for my phone. Fuck being polite. When he asked what I was doing, I told him I promised my boyfriend I'd call him once I was home safely. Wrong thing to say. He got pissed that I had a boyfriend and didn't tell him about it. He asked what his name was, what he did for a living, and where he was right now, at this very second. When I gave half-hearted answers, he got even angrier. He demanded to know why a boyfriend of mine would be so stupid enough to leave his girl alone with another man, him. He repeated it twice. At this point, I'm trying not to cry. When I figured my phone must have fallen under the seat, I started digging around down there. He demanded to know what I was doing. I gave my best impression of a genuine laugh and said I dropped my phone. He told me to stop digging around in his things immediately. I stopped. Mind you, I'm still drunk as hell at this point. I was just trying to keep my shit together and not vomit or pass out. I tried the door a third time. Still nothing. He asked if I wanted to get coffee again. Even kind of begged a little. I told him no. I just needed sleep. He asked if I lived alone again. I lied and told him I had a roommate. He asked if I was my boyfriend and I said no. He kind of got angry again and then straight up asked if I'd made my boyfriend up. I told him no and he got angry angrier and again asked why he would leave me alone with another man like this. I'm usually pretty good at reading people, and I got the vibe that this guy thought he was a knight compared to my boyfriend, so I lied through my teeth. I told him I was going to break things off with my boyfriend, that we weren't really that serious, that he was an idiot to leave me alone like this. Thank whatever fucking God was watching over me. But that did it. He calmed down and said that changed things. He asked if I wanted to get coffee again, and I changed my answer to not tonight. He asked for my number and I gave it to him. He called to make sure it was my real number. My phone buzzed from between the seat and the door, and I fished it out. He grabbed my phone from me and demanded I show him my boyfriend's contact info. When I did, he deleted it and gave me a big smile. Feels good, doesn't it? I told him yes. He put his number in my phone and gave it back. I told him goodnight in the hopes that he would release me, and he told me he'd like to talk for just a little longer. I had to stay locked in that car with him until 4:30 in the morning. I don't even remember what we talked about. He asked if he could hold my hand at one point, to which I said I needed to break up with my boyfriend before I did anything with another man. He liked that answer, thankfully. When he finally let me out, the door was child locked, so I could only be opened from the outside. The windows were locked too. I walked up the wrong building steps and crouched down in the shadows of some random person's door until he drove off. I sat for another 10 minutes and then sprinted to my apartment. After crying on the floor in my kitchen for a while, I called my boyfriend and explained to him what happened. His response was one I get from everyone when I tell them the story. Report that fuck to Uber. But even though he didn't know which building in my complex I lived in, he still knew where I lived. I was terrified of seeing him again. I was terrified of calling an Uber. To this day, I refuse to use Uber alone, and I make sure that I have my phone in my hand every time I get an Uber now. I realized this could have been a lot worse, and maybe he was a good guy with the wrong line of thinking. He did mean well, but I was terrified and I wasn't going to make it to my apartment that night. Please be cautious when getting into an Uber. Don't be like me. So Uber driver from hell, I know we've been technically met before, but I'm going to have to rain check on that coffee date. Forever, let's not meet. Wow, that story was crazy. I have no idea what I would do if I was in that situation, if I would attack them or try to break the window or what. You know, you just don't know with people nowadays. They can have a gun, they can have whatever, especially with Uber and her situation, being intoxicated and maybe not knowing if it was the right Uber driver or not. I haven't personally used Uber. If you guys have used Uber in the past, go ahead and comment down below. I'd be interested in seeing. And maybe tell me some stories you've had with Uber, maybe a really funny one or some scary ones. And if you guys are interested in hearing some of your own stories on this channel, go ahead and send them down to my email. I got it in the description below. Also, I'd appreciate if you can like, comment, and subscribe, because that's what all YouTubers are here for. That's what we live and die for. That's what we breathe. Every time I wake up in the morning, I don't drink coffee. I drink like, comment, and subscribe juice. I'm just kidding. Alright, I love you guys. Bye.